Sunday's political events in Brazil put to rest any argument that our country's institutions are working properly. In a wild day, an appellate judge tried to release former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from prison at all costs, while the judges who convicted Lula worked tooth and nail to keep him behind bars despite being on vacation. Once again, Brazil's most polarizing figure is at the center of a legal controversy. His case, though, sheds light on a much deeper problem within Brazil's justice system. My name is Gustavo Ribeiro, and this is Explaining Brazil. For a country that loves soap operas, none has been filled with so many twists and turns as the case of Operation Car Wash versus former Brazilian President Lula. In a very funny tweet, political analyst Oliver Stuckel said that when God said, "Let there be breaking news," it was when he created Brazil. In fact, Brazil has been anything but boring. And to discuss what the hell is going on, I'm here today with Diogo Rodrigues, a staff writer for the Brazilian Report. Hello, Diogo.
Hello, Gustavo. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. Kind of confused, but, you know.
I think we all are. And that's my first question to you, actually. What the hell is going on? I mean, as any journalist, I have push notifications for breaking news on my phone. And I remember on Sunday morning getting one message saying, Lula is going to be released from prison. Then another one saying, no, he's not. After a couple of hours, no, he actually is. Then, no, he's not. So 3 times I got push notifications saying he would be left out from prison, and then say, no, actually, not at all. What's going on?
Well, as you said, it was a very complicated day yesterday. From 9 a.m. until 7:30 p.m., we didn't know what was going to happen with former President Lula. We had a judicial battle between a substitute judge and other judges that were overseeing Lula's case in the Operation Car Wash, and they were all exchanging orders and dispatches in order to try to, on one side, to release Lula on the allegation that he was being prevented from campaigning and exercising his political rights, and on the other, that he was convicted for corruption and accepting bribes, and he could not be released from prison on the basis of those arguments. And that went back and forth quite several times. Like you said, we had some decisions for him being released, and then again, a few minutes or a few hours later, decisions telling everyone that he would stay in jail. So that was what we saw yesterday.
And why would a judge that was not overseeing his case in the first place have a say on this? Can you explain why was a substitute judge actually?
Well, in theory, he has the power to issue such an order. But the thing is, this case is so controversial, as you said, and so important politically, that when he did that, he allowed his decision to be politicized, and also he allowed the other actors in the political game to enter this scenario and fight politically.
But the judge's bio also makes us doubt that his decisions were only based on the law, right? I mean, he was a former Workers' Party member. He worked for President Lula's administration. I mean, I don't know what's going inside his head, so I cannot accuse him of anything. But that gives room for interpretation, right? Sure
it gives. And he's not the only member of the judicial system of Brazil that is connected to political parties. We can talk about Alexandre. We can talk about Alexandre de Moraes, who is a Supreme Court justice right now. He has close ties to PSDB. I mean, the thing is about this back and forth that we saw yesterday is that in Brazil, justice is not based only on rational arguments. It's based on authority and personal authority more than anything. So what happened yesterday was like a showdown between two kinds of authority. One that was a substitute one, but that wanted to create a political uproar, and the other one was the actual authorities in the judicial system at the specific location where the process is going on, and they showed that they had the last say. And the substitute judge could not get Lula out of jail.
And for me, Looking from the outside, I mean, there are no good guys in this case because at one point, I'm not a legal expert, but I cannot agree with the substitute judge's decision in favor of Lula because he mentions that he altered the sentence execution because there was new fact. And the new fact was that the Workers' Party formally launched Lula's bid to the presidency. Well, I mean, if you're in Brazil and you follow, you don't have even to be a political junkie. I mean, for the past 2-3 years, everybody in Brazil knows that Lula is a presidential candidate. So I don't believe this characterized as a new fact. At the same time, the way that the judges who oversee Lula's case, Judge Sérgio Moro, who is some sort of celebrity in Brazil right now, and then the case rapporteur in the Appellate court, the fact that they reacted in such strong fashion and so quickly on a Sunday, that also raises a question: if the first judge is acting politically, yes, are they not?
Yes, and Sérgio Moro was on vacation.
So, exactly.
And
God knows that Brazilian judges do not stop their vacations to try any kind of case.
Yeah, well, one thing, first things first, this case is very, like I said, it has various political consequences to it. So that will explain, the whole uproar that it created in the media and in society. People went to protest at the Lula vigil in Curitiba, and
where Lula is being incarcerated, right?
Yes, that's where he's incarcerated. Thank you. And well, you were talking about we were talking about authority in the judicial system, and well, I'm going to talk about a concept that comes from an expert in this field that is also my brother. I have to make this disclaimer. But his book, José Rodrigo Rodriguez's book, called How Do Courts Decide, was the winner of the 2015 Jabuti Award, which is the biggest book award we have in Brazil in the category of law. And what he says about, what happens and the way that decisions are made in Brazil is that, like I said, they depend on personal authority mainly. So what happens is that the jurisprudence is not always based on a rational argument. It's not based on a rational knowledge that has been constructed over the years, and by, both the scholars and the people who are actually practicing law, the judges and Supreme Courts and everything. That's how the decisions are made in our system. Like in the United States, whenever the Supreme Court issues a decision, they make like a whole they
talk a lot about precedent and
they publish like a text that doesn't have an authorship, is by the Supreme Court. Is not.
That depends, because sometimes the Chief Justice attributes to someone the authorship of the majority opinion.
Yes, but what becomes the majority opinion is now a text that, it is the canon. And in Brazil, that doesn't happen. When the decision is published, they just put everything together, all the justices' votes together, and
you have the acórdão.
That doesn't give the rational base to the decision.
Okay.
In terms of constructing a narrative or jurisprudence, it doesn't give a whole. So that's how we work. I mean, what that judge tried to do was try to, he thought he had the authority to do something, and he tried to do that. He tried to release Lula on some basis that I'm not able to discuss if it's legitimate or not, but he tried to do that, and he provoked the whole reaction of the system.
For me, though, this case is less about Lula being released or not from prison, because I think that Lula is experienced enough to know that it wouldn't come that easy. But I think it's more of a chess play from Lula, because Lula has been incarcerated since April the 7th. Unless something extraordinary happens, he will not be on the ballot come October's election. But the party insists in calling him the candidate. Why? Because, well, in jail or not, Lula has 30% of voting intentions. he would win the election against literally anyone right now. And the party wants the voter to identify with him, so when it comes the time to change the candidate, it will be his candidate, and voters will gravitate towards this new candidate easier, in an easier way. And now, when Lula calls the justice system's bluff and say, okay, you will have to act strongly against me, and the way that they did, I think it makes Lula's case stronger with his supporters, that he's being targeted and that his case is not being treated by judges just like any other case. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. That was a very clever strategy. That was a Workers' Party strategy to call Sergio Moro's bluff, and they made it. He bit the bait. He manifested himself during his vacation. We know Globo told, they have they had a story that didn't have an official source, but they said that Sergio Moro phoned the chief of the federal police in order to enforce his opinion that Lula shouldn't be released. I think they expected exactly what happened, is that the whole logic of this power, of how the judicial system is working, was exposed for everyone to see, and I think they managed to do that. They weren't expecting Lula to be actually released. Like you said, that is something that it's almost impossible.
It's too good to be true for them.
Yeah. So even though it is said that Lula, packed up his things and just to be prepared in case he was actually going to be released. But I think that was a way that the Workers' Party found to put Sergio Moro in the political game again. And he was, out of the spotlight. He has been out of the spotlight for some months now, and they brought him back.
The Workers' Party is calling foul play on Operation Car Wash, calling it a witch hunt, and saying that they are tampering with the judicial system to take Lula out of the equation. And when Moro does that, well, he adds fuel to the fire. But actually, as much as I think it's a brilliant strategy from the Workers' Party standpoint towards their militants, towards the guys that are already supporting the Workers' Party, I think for the general voter, that could backfire, because what we saw on Sunday is a complete mess. It's not how you would expect a normal, properly functioning judicial system to work. And we have one candidate that says that the institutions cannot be trusted anymore, that everything must be changed and order must be established, even if by force. And that guy is Jair Bolsonaro, the far-right candidate. I mean, I'm scared that this guy could capitalize on the mess that the judicial system is right now and get some more votes, because he has stalled on polls. He has gotten to 20%, and then he's there, not moving up or down, but that could fuel his candidacy.
Yes, and some studies have shown that some of the electorate that will vote for Lula will also vote for Jair Bolsonaro. So that could be something. If the discourse of everything is wrong, so let's just blow everything up and put someone who is going to take charge of everything and change the country, if that's something that appeals to people, and then he has a chance of getting not a good part of those votes, but some part, and that would be something important in such a unpredictable election like we probably will see at the end of the year. But I don't know. Everything is so uncertain right now that I don't. It's a very good hypothesis, but I don't really know what's going to come out of this. And
nobody does. Right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think our listeners must understand that everything is so confusing in Brazil right now, and we make an effort to try to explain things. But even ourselves, journalists and specialists and experts and scholars, they don't know what to say sometimes, because it's very hard to know what's going on.
Exactly. So, and right now, like you said, we don't even know who's going to be on the ballot.
Exactly.
Because parties are deciding their candidates in August, then we'll have a clearer picture. Because right now, 41% of voters don't even know who they're voting for. I mean, that's unprecedented in Brazil's democratic history.
Yes, the undecisiveness that people think that is only on the left because of Lula's position, but it's not only on the left. On the right, they're having trouble. The PSDB doesn't know yet who's going to be the candidate.
The Social Democratic Party.
Social Democratic Party, yes, and they're having a battle between two of their strongest political figures.
Strongest is a matter of speech because
strongest in the sense of of gaining votes.
No, I know, but I mean Geraldo Alckmin, a former governor of São Paulo, who served 4 terms as governor of the wealthiest state in São Paulo. He's pulling at 6%. Strong as a...
Well, that's what they have. Yeah, I mean that's what they have, and he's he might not be strong on polls right now, but he's someone who he has very strong political power within his party and outside of his party, and he has good dialogue with all sorts of parties in the right spectrum. So he's not someone to be underestimated.
Yeah. No, it's funny because this election is very contradicted in a lot of ways. And one point is everybody's against the establishment. Nobody trusts institutions like political parties, politicians, Congress, the Supreme Court. And yet, every single outsider that tried to get into this election got out. I mean, no one actually materialized into a candidate. All candidates are part of the establishment.
Yeah, because it's hard to be an outsider in a system that only gives prominence to insiders. Yeah. And we don't have a phenomenon such as the Macron phenomenon in France. Not yet, but I don't think it's going. We have time until the elections. But the thing is, the Brazilian political system is very connected to the establishment, and we haven't seen any outsider initiatives or movements that have managed to gain popular, not support, but even popular knowledge, and that can challenge the system right now. So it's very hard for an outsider to have an actual political relevance in terms of elections.
And I take this opportunity to tell listeners that this is actually your first podcast here, right?
Yes, this is my first time.
It will not be the last because next month, after beginning August, me and Diogo, we're going to be here every week talking about Brazil's election, our party system, how things work, and trying to explain and dissect Brazil's political system and our very unpredictable presidential election. Diogo, thanks very much and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
And thanks to our listeners. If you like this podcast, please take a look at our website. It's Brazilian.report. Every day we have new content about Brazil's politics, economics, and society. We also have exclusive newsletter services if you want to be briefed on what's going on in Brazil before starting your day. Subscribe now to our free trial and enjoy all of our content for 14 days for free. It's really free. You don't have to put any credit card information. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Our Twitter handle is @BrazilianReport. That's all for now. See you next week. Thank you.